we'll go with payment of bills on the new business.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves the payment of bills as presented and listed in December 8th, 2015 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
I move this to the new business rather than the consent agenda because, we get questions on the bills. And twofold, I'd like to just tell you that in certain years, Mary Ann was kind enough to go back and look, that in 2003, 4, 5, 6, and 7, the minutes and the bills were on separate items with no consent agenda. And I think by definition, a consent agenda should be something where there's limited or no discussion or questions. So that's why I wanted to put it over here. And then secondly, I want to know if there's any way we can have less questions regarding the bills so that the business office has less items to look up each time.
Sure.
If
I think
that's
there's
possible.
a couple ways we can do it. One is they can get a report that has all the information in it, so it's easy to read. The second is there can be a description so that when somebody looks at it, they can tell what it's for. That's two ways that it could happen.
Okay,
Third
so-
is if they want to send it out early, and then when they send it out with the package, show the difference, so you only have to look at the new items. You could send the early ones out early and the new ones later, but when you get the same report twice, basically you can't tell what's different. It's more effort to go through it twice. So I think it's completely
We
within the
resend the
business.
bills twice,
Did you send that?
or are we just including it in the overall packet?
You send them out early for review,
Right.
but then when you get the later list, you can't tell, you have to.
Adds more.
You have to go through and figure out what's different about it.
Are we adding bills after we send it out the first time?
Yes,
Yes.
whatever's up to that point in time, we send out. And then with the packet, it includes the extra week or 10 days.
I think it's completely within the administration's ability to, if they make sure that when you look at the explanations, you can tell what it's for, then you wouldn't have to ask questions.
Okay.
And
have-
if you explain something that's out of the ordinary in the package, then you wouldn't have to ask questions.
So on this question you have about the football tickets playoffs,
Yeah.
and you said, please explain what do you need to know about?
Well,
the
why'd we
$40?
buy tickets for the playoffs for somebody?
No, we paid that person $40 to work the ticket booth, correct?
Yeah, that's the amount we paid those people.
Okay, well, then it appeared to me we were buying playoff tickets the way I read that.
Okay. From my perspective, it's $40. At some point, there's also got to be a trust factor with the business office.
Well,
That
here,
they're-
that's
that they're-
fine.
Let me finish for a minute. That they're doing the job and that we're not over-analyzing everything they've done. Because, 11 years ago, I went into the business office as we were on a different board. And I think they really do a good job. And now, I was in there recently and they want to know, the workers want to know, why are there so many questions when we did an internal audit and they found that everything they were doing was correct? And, could we possibly do some kind of cutoff where we're not asking about, $50 raffle fee from the town to the west or paying $40 to somebody? I mean, is it something we can maybe do a little bit higher of a level that we're asking about from?
Well, it's odd that you're saying that, because when we talk about the audit, you said, well, we don't worry about it because we ask questions. Now we pass the audit, which again, say my piece on what I think about the auditors did, but now it's because we passed the audit, let's not ask questions. And we have a
No, I didn't say-
statutory obligation, these have to be put to the board and they have to be approved by the board.
Right.
So if the board doesn't understand what they're voting on, how can they meet their statutory obligation to approve the expenditures?
I'm just trying to balance everybody's time here.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to see if there's a way we can cut down some of it.
Yes, I think make it clear. So if it says tickets, paid somebody to pass out tickets instead of tickets, because then I want to know why we would buy somebody tickets for an event. It's correct. Gary's asked a couple times about vaccines. Now we got vaccines in here. Who did we buy vaccines for? Last meeting, we said we don't even know if we want to be in the vaccine business. Now we have an expenditure for vaccines. Yes, it's only $144, but it raises the question, if we've talked about vaccines and we said we're not sure we're going to do them, why are we already buying them? Nobody said at the meeting, by the way, we already bought some vaccines for people.
So the school district's responsible to cover expenses for a homeless child?
Okay,
So,
but did I know that?
well, I mean, at some point, I think that's what Mike's saying. No, you wouldn't know that. That's what you have the superintendent and the staff. So I mean,
You can't have it both ways. You
I
can't say it's your
understand.
statutory obligation to approve it, but trust us. And say, because we ask questions, we know they're there, and we have a discussion on vaccine and say we don't buy vaccines, and then say we buy vaccines in certain situations. If during the vaccine discussion said there are certain situations we buy vaccines for homeless people, I would probably try to remember that and you wouldn't ask the question the next time.
As a board member, I find it disconcerting that the president of the board would ask us to not ask questions. Because, well, let me finish. When we all first came on, you scanned thousands of documents because you wanted every check and every number up there. You asked lots of questions. I think, and we're filming this, I think it's to the public that we are free to ask questions, and if we come with less questions, that would show that we have grown. Lest we give the perception that we're intimidated to ask questions.
So, just,
So, are you done? So I didn't ask that you not ask questions. I'm asking, is there some way we can ask less questions? Is
Sure,
there
I think a
something-
lot of questions would go away if the administration would, these are the same questions we could ask. It's unclear. Explain it when you send out the package. If you're just going to keep sending out reports, then you're going to expect to ask questions, at least from me. I feel, whether anybody else does, I feel it's part of my statutory obligation, okay?
Okay.
Look at the other ones. We got individual cell phone bills for a bunch of people, then we have one for Verizon for $935. I think it's a pretty legitimate question to say, why is there a lump sum on how do we know who these are for? It doesn't say. We got the teacher in here, wanting us to get more teachers. Everybody's looking at the money. Why are we spending $175 on iTunes cards? You know, again, it's small, but you know what? It adds up. It adds up all the things we're spending money on. And if you know, again, I agree,
Tim, do you, let me ask you a fair question.
yeah.
You've been a board member for 5 years. We answer every question you ask.
Yes, I agree.
And 99% of the time, it's a pretty easy answer.
Right.
So this wasn't from the administration saying, hey, we don't want any questions. Mike just came in and said, hey, as we moved a lot of things to the consent agenda, I want to consider moving bills to new business. So he came in and talked with Tim and I. We don't have a problem answering questions. You wouldn't know what I would understand the question of iTunes, because you would want to make sure, hey, we're not spending district money on people to download iTunes. So the iTunes cards are for, in all of our special ed areas, for kids that have special learning and mnemonic devices. That's where they buy the apps for the special ed kids. When those apps are up, we have to get them new iTunes cards so they can subscribe to things on the iPads that are specific to that student's individual educational plan. The cell phone bills that you asked about, the district has a cell phone account that provides cell phones for administrators. If an administrator cannot get out of their contract or not have to pay a lump sum fee, we give them the same amount, we reimburse them the same amount of money that we provide them in our lump sum bill for the district administrators. So that was the cell phone question. So it wasn't that the staff doesn't want questions. That was not, I don't want anybody to think that was the.
But go back to
how
the
it
one
came
Mike
back.
said. It specifically says in the description for the two, it says football tickets playoff second round.
So that should have said football ticket taker.
Yeah.
The one below it says that. It says football ticket take.
All right, well, I highlighted them together because I read the first one. So, I mean, if it's clear what, yeah, we pay, I know we have people take tickets and we pay them.
I just trying to have the discussion, what can we do? Because they spend a lot of time trying to get our answers, which is good. But if there's any way we can reduce it, that's kind of the discussion I wanted. Now, as for the 20,000 documents you keep referring to on several occasions, yes, I volunteered to scan them in, but what it proved to me was all the things that we were missing. We did the 60 million construction project and we had a box of documents, But in those box of documents that this building had, for everything we did for $60 million, there were no blueprints, there were no engineer reports, there were no, all those things that the facilities committee had struggled over, the boilers, the pool, the field house, the sewer gas, and all the other things that didn't go quite right with that. It was to point out that we did not have the documents we should have. We should, for $60 million, we should be able to walk into the business office and have 100% of the blueprints and all the other documents that you would expect from a construction project. They're having meetings now, spending their time, trying to get people to address the problem in the pool. I only asked for the pool to be looked at because I feared that something could catastrophically happen in there, because if a light fixture falls because the screw maybe got eroded, what is a big, heavy air conditioning unit or air unit on top of a beam? You know, you magnify the light problem, much bigger, much heavier unit. They're still trying to find shop drawings, they're still trying to find approvals of who did what, and that really doesn't help the facilities committee try to solve some of these problems. I scanned all those documents in to show what we don't have. And we put them all out there so that if anyone wanted to go see what we did spend our money on, they're out there. And we don't have to go look through this box for something. That was one of the reasons why I scanned them and put them out there. And so I'm just, trying to manage the 7 board members' time and trying to help the administrators with time a little bit, and just trying to point out, is there something we could do as a board of 7 to
I think the
smooth it
biggest
out?
thing you can do for the board, that would, just like the PMA, we're paying good money to do it, it should be clear what you're presenting here. Because it shouldn't take a board member an hour to go through, look at a graph that nobody could figure out what it means when we're paying the guy money for it. The same thing when we get any kind of report, when we're getting presentation. Anticipate, what's changed. The revenues are up 3%. That's $425,000 so far. That should be something that's pointed out to say, oh, by the way, looks like we're over collecting versus budget. We do it instead of, I'd rather not ask any questions. But if there's something that's unclear, I'm going to ask a question. I think we have an obligation to do that.
It's fair enough. I'm just asking the question, if there's any way we can reduce any of it.
This is our working meeting, remember that.
I understand that.
I'd like to make a motion to resolve that the Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois, hereby approves the payments of bills as presented and listed in December 8, 2015 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
And then I'll just leave it at this point in the agenda, and we'll move on. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
There's the line item there on the boilers, like $7,000.
What page?
Where are you looking at?
It's probably the first or second page.
Which list was it on? Do you know, Jim?
Arrigo?
The payables, yeah, I'm
It's
just...
Arrigo Enterprises, repairs to the boiler.
Right, so considering our boiler problem, did something happen, or is this routine repairs, or what?
Just a repair and a heat exchanger. And this was our portion. Some of that was covered by warranty, and then some of that is just normal wear and tear.
Okay.
I think you actually reported that we were going to have to do that before, right?
Joe did, yeah. And I might have did it in a previous facilities update.
I just have one comment before we go for the vote. I like it, Kevin, when you ask for questions ahead of time, and then you go through the list of questions at the meeting on the bills so that we all hear it. I find that as a board member very useful.
Anything else? Tim?
No.
Matt?
No.
All right, Mary Ann.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Jepson?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.